Welcome you to the Riverside Weekly. We hope your time with us today is thought-provoking, spiritually challenging, and a life-changing experience. Our discussions and messages can be raw, real, and at times very uncomfortable and even controversial. We highly encourage all of our guests and listeners to take notes, leave comments, and when possible, always share what you hear. And now here are your hosts, Pastor Solo and Pastor Mia.
Okay, somebody's on. I don't know who's talking. Good morning.
Do I need to turn it down over there?
No, you can turn it.
Hi, good morning.
We're live on YouTube.
You can turn it down here. There we go. All right.
All right. Welcome everybody. It's Wednesday and we're live, so that's pretty exciting. Because,
Good morning.
Good morning. You've got to wake up. Wake up.
This morning.
Wake up. Smell the coffee. I've already been up. So, I know my hair doesn't look like it, my eyes don't look like it, but I promise I'm awake.
All right. Go ahead and talk, and I'm going to refill my cup.
Okay. All the stuff behind us, by the way, can you see there's like a lot of construction going on? I did a live video this morning, and we actually, on my Instagram, and we actually are working on our house, doing some busy work in this quarantine time that we're in. We figure we might as well do something productive, and that's what we've been doing.
You can talk louder. You're like
I know.
whispering.
I'm whispering because my grandkids are asleep in this house.
Our grandkids are asleep in the other room.
Yeah,
She's afraid that they're going to hear us.
We had an overnight stay, and we TikToked, and we did all kinds of stuff, and I got out of a Doritos chip bag, so it was pretty cool. But
that's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. Thank you, great grandma. Not great grandma, but a good grandma. How's that? Okay. Anyway, so I was did a live this morning in the pink bear. By the way, that's my robe. But I did a live video so that everyone would know my pink robe, and I wanted to show everybody the progress that we've made on the house. And if you didn't see it, go back and see it under the original Pastor Mia, because my house is now the really, really big blue house. And, you know, I think that's funny. I don't think anybody knows, but how that started is...
I don't know how it started.
I'm going to tell you, because my son, my youngest son, was infatuated with Bear in the Big Blue House. Remember that? Do you remember that? And so when we moved here, it was kind of a gray, and I was like, no, it has to be blue. It's a 2-story house. It's like Bear in the Big Blue House. It's got to be blue. He loves it, so we're going to go with it. And he used to love that show. Remember that? Mm-hmm. The Bear in the Big Blue House? Anyway, so now we're finally being able to do construction and be able to do some work on this time off. And I was going to address this, and I've been thinking about this since after I got off.
So that construction right there.
Yeah, right there.
We're in a room, kind of. If you've been in our house, but we're in a room, our spare room. Our house is huge, but we took one of our rooms that we're not using.
You can speak up.
And converted it into a studio, mini studio. To be able to record audios and do videos since we've been on this lockdown. So it was easier for us to transform this room into a studio than it was to go to the church, set up, come back, back and forth. So now we're just, I don't have to travel. I don't have to be at a church every day.
Well, not even that. You don't have to be there for hours at a time, and not getting in trouble for them to say who's having services, who's gathering, that type of thing. We didn't want it to look or have the appearance of us getting, in trouble or that type of thing. But
Trying to be, what is that called?
mindful.
Mindful, but trying to be obedient to the authorities of the land.
Good job. Good job.
So
Good
I
job,
mean,
honey.
not that other churches are wrong, but for me and what we're doing, it was just.
And
easier.
we're not going to address that today.
And we're just. I'm just trying to make it easier for us, production wise.
Okay.
That's basically.
Yeah. And being in the middle of construction and being in quarantine, it's just been easier to be here, do something, do what we got to do, and then come back. So anyway, I wanted to address the pink beret.
I could just run upstairs.
See the pink beret? I was thinking about that when I was doing my hair this morning. Because see, pre-hair was down and wavy, but video hair is slick back and all that.
Yeah,
so,
that's what me is.
Yeah, you're doing all right. Anyway, so the reason I'm wearing the pink beret is because my granddaughter gave it to me, and when your granddaughter or grandbaby gives you something,
Go ahead. I gotta adjust my seat.
I was like, what is happening here?
Go ahead. This is
Anyway.
live, so we're.
Anyway, when your grandbaby gives you something, I promise you do use it regardless, and you just don't say no to a grandbaby. So that's why I'm wearing it. And it's not the color, it doesn't match any of my clothes, but she said, here, Grandma, I'm going to help you with your hair. Let me give you this.
Bad hair day.
Yeah.
You know it's bad when your grandkids are
I know.
fixing
Fix your hair, Grandma.
fixing your appearance.
Yeah. Anyway, so today we have a really great topic, and it's in all this spring cleaning
We
and
do.
all this nesting and shifting around we've been doing, getting prepared for our new grandbaby to come in.
Who joined us this morning?
Huh? What?
Who's that?
Where?
Somebody joined us. Who's
Yes.
that? Oh. Did we say hi
Alyssa,
to-
April. Hi, April.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I just saw it click up, so I was
And-
just like, hey! Okay.
And
I don't know who, I can't read that is. Who is that? I don't know who that is. I can't read that.
Cheech. I think that I don't know his real name.
Bat Stang.
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't read what it said. It's too
Okay.
far away
Do
with
you know
glasses.
who it is?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes
you
and
do.
no, I don't.
He didn't know your
I don't
code
know-
name.
I don't know-
Send your real name
I
in.
don't know code names.
Okay, code. Anyway, can we stay on topic
Okay,
for
sorry,
a minute?
sorry,
Okay,
sorry.
thank you. See, this is live. This is what we have to edit out when you guys aren't with us. Okay. All right. Anyway,
Spring cleaning.
Yeah, so I was just spring cleaning and nesting and trying to get things done and moving stuff since this quarantine. And I found some stuff, and it's just really been rolling inside of me and thinking about it. And it's,
Okay.
well, it has to do with you, but it's, I just was thinking about how ahead of the game you are. You're an innovator and you come up with some things, but I
Ooh,
found,
fancy word.
yeah, but I found some of your CDs, and I don't know that April's even going to remember this one because I think this was actually even before her time. She says good morning to you. And anyway, it was your underground show. And I don't know if you'll remember that, but you did, and I'm sure you will, because you had so many ideas. And by the way, if you hear the cars in the background, we are live, and there are cars going by.
Our windows are open in
Yeah.
the house.
Yeah, and it's just because it's a nice morning. Anyway, the Underground Show was a CD show that you did before podcasts came out and before all the streaming happened. So the Underground Show was a CD compilation of music, which Stephanie will be on that too. I'm pretty sure her and New Wine were in there at that time too. This is Stephanie's husband, by the way.
Might be, I'm not sure. They might be on there. I don't remember.
No, I'm sure they were,
Oh, okay.
because you had quite a few episodes. But I was just thinking about that, and I was like, you're so ahead of the game, and you're so innovative, even with your signs. Do you remember when you wanted to drive around Waco and put in these signs? Where's Waco? Where's Waco?
My Where's Waco sign.
Yeah, because we weren't on the map. We were on the map
Nobody
for
knew
bad
we-
stuff. Nobody knew who we were except for the Koresh and Branch Davidians,
You
which
went way back.
I know, which by the way happened 27 years ago this month. Did you know that?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's mind-blowing. 27. You were an officer there. I know. That's 27 years ago.
DL stuff, man. Nobody's
just
supposed to know
saying.
that.
I'm just
I was
saying.
5'0", bro.
But I think it's really cool, and I think I just want everybody to think about that and listen to your story and why you're always ahead of the game. Why do you always think ahead of, because I'm always constantly saying that, boy, Dad, you were way ahead of your game because you did stuff that now is in effect, and yet you don't get credit for it. Number one, you're not famous for it. Number two, we're not making money off of it. Number three. But I'm just saying that you were ahead of the curve, and why are you always 2 steps ahead of everything? And I think that's what you call it, right? You're in my job that I do in my line is driving, teaching defensive driving. So in my line of work, we call it driving 2 cars back, always looking ahead. And you were that way even before we even started the church, before you even got, maybe you were already into church. I don't remember. I just know that you've always been ahead of the game. Is that what you call it, ahead of the game?
Yeah.
Okay, so why? I want you
Ahead of your
to...
time, ahead of your game.
Ahead of your time.
Yeah.
Why are you always ahead of your time?
Well, first of all, nobody's ever asked me that. Why or how.
Well, that's why we want to know, is why are you ahead of your game? All the time, you're always ahead of the game. And when I say the game, it's the game, which is the game of life, or the game of seeing who's going to be the next innovator, or what's the next idea going to be, or what am I doing that nobody else is doing, and what am I doing that nobody else has thought of.
Well, my biggest obstacle has always been finances.
Yeah. I mean,
If I had more finances, I probably would be known for some of the stuff that I've done.
yeah.
JK.
Anyway, okay. So explain.
Well, to answer the question, because nobody's ever asked me that, is how do I do that, or what does that look like?
In 15 minutes or less.
15 minutes or less. Well, for me, just growing up, my dad just instilled in us to always look past where you're at in problem solving. In other words, always try to see the problems that are coming or the obstacles that are coming before they get there. But when you do that, it's really a mindset. You have to change how you think, because you have to look wider and from a different vantage point. Meaning, you have to. It's kind of like best example I could say. If you've ever been to Six Flags and you go to the Orange Tower, I don't even know what the Orange Tower is called, the big Orange Tower at Six Flags.
Yes, which
right?
I don't like, so
right.
I never get on it. I don't.
Well, if you're at Six Flags, or if you think about for you Wacoans, the Alico building.
Okay.
Right.
Which we can never go on because you have to pay.
But like, when you're at ground level, when you're at ground level, you're seeing everybody else's viewpoint. So you're seeing the same view that everybody else is seeing. But when you can get yourself at a high enough level, you can see what nobody else can see. In other words, you can see what's coming in the horizon.
Oh, so you're at a higher level than everybody else?
See, I can't even.
I mean, that's what I heard. I don't know what y'all heard.
I'm talking about perspective.
Okay.
So when you change your perspective and you're looking, when you look from a higher perspective, you can see things in the horizon. You can see things that are coming. You can see your vantage point is wider, so you have a bigger picture view, a big picture view. And I'm not the only one that think. There's tons of people that think like that and see that way. But for me, that was just being taught to do that, being able to, because it's really you have to be taught to do that. You have to. Some people are born with it, I guess.
You're just born with it?
Well, I mean, I think some people are. I think some people are born with it. I wouldn't say that I was
instilled in.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was born with it, but I think it was taught. Like my dad instilled that into me, like to be able to look beyond where you're at further. And so in doing that, it's about being able to see what everybody else is doing. In other words, what we've been trained to do, and this is kind of going to get, controversial here for a second, but what we've been taught to do by media, what we've been taught to do by our society, by, say this cringingly, by our government, by religious folks, by all these different avenues, we've been taught to think, see a certain way, hear a certain way. But when you have a different vantage point, when you're looking further beyond, you can see past what they're saying. You can see past what they're showing.
You can read between the lines.
Yeah, read between the lines. And so, in doing so, you're able to look at what this group of individuals is doing, and what this business is doing, and what this church is doing, and what this ministry is doing, and what this family is doing, and what this author's doing, and what this movie production person is doing. And so you're looking at things from a vantage point where you can basically start putting things together, and you're like, wow, I can see this happening, in the next 3 or 4 years, or this would be a good way to do this better than the way it's being done now. And it's the same thing that people do with movies, right? So like they make futuristic movies, right? And it's based off of something that they could see or that they could imagine. And so the only difference between from producing a movie and doing what you say real life is the consistency of being able to do it, And so I remember I was real big into lowriders. Me and my cousins and friends, man, we were man, I guess for me, I was probably a couple of years out of high school, 24, 25, something like that, and we were real big into lowriders. And the thing that I noticed is that everybody was having to drive to Dallas or to Austin or to San Antonio or Houston to get lowrider products, right? Literally the hydraulics and all the stuff that goes with accessories. And so for me, I was like, why don't somebody just create a lowrider shop here? And nobody ever did. And so I was like, I'm going to do that. So that's what I ended up doing. And then we were traveling around, going to all these lowrider shows. And then I would always see these bicycles. Man, these kids would put hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars into these bicycles. And I thought, man, nobody ever gives them props for all the effort and work that they do to these bikes. They get like a little trophy and a pat on the back. Good job, kid.
Good job.
Right? And for me, I was just like, man, they should get more recognition for all the effort they did. So then I was like, we're going to instead of doing a car show, everybody does a car show, a lowrider car show. I said, let's do a lowrider bike show. And so that's how we did the lowrider bike. So seeing a little bit further out, of what normal is. And then when you're talking about the underground show, growing up in the 80s, being a DJ, we used to make mixtapes all the time.
80s.
Right? So we had these cassettes and we would make these mixtapes. And in that thought process of making mixtapes, tapes phased out, CDs came in, and then during that whole season or transition of technology, I got saved and started serving God, and but I was a DJ for so many years, and so I thought, well, I'm going to do a radio show that's on a cassette, and just because you couldn't find Christian hip hop anywhere,
right.
It did not exist.
Right.
If you found a Christian hip hop cassette or CD, that was gold. You held on to that thing. And so for me, being a DJ, I was like, let's get this music out there to more people. And so I would literally, what she said is literally what I was doing. What you see right now on social media and people do it, I would literally sit and do what we're doing right now, play music
with no video.
There's no video. It's just me and a microphone in a room, and I would record these shows called the Underground Show, and it would literally, when you listen to it on a cassette, it would sound like a radio station.
Yeah.
Right? And so in that process of watching or doing that, we started distributing. Then we went to transition to CDs, and then we transitioned into actually being on the radio, which was really crazy.
Yeah.
Something said something.
I don't know. Our live feed for our
Something happened.
Riverside Weekly, something happened. So
if we broke off of YouTube, sorry. I don't know. We're doing this live, so we don't ever have these technical difficulties. This is what I'm talking about right here.
technical difficulties.
Yeah,
See,
so-
this is why we pre-recorded it and put it on a CD and then dispensed it because it was so much easier. And by the
Yeah.
way, Steph's husband is Martin. Hi, Martin.
Hi.
Morning.
So I would do these shows. So it's more for me. It's more of thinking about solving problems or looking to see what issues are arising or how you can make something better than what you currently have. And so when you look at what's taking place, it's just really it's just a perspective. Like, you have to look from a different perspective, and in doing so, it causes you to be innovative, because so you're trying to do things that nobody's done or solve problems in a way that nobody's solved that problem. And sometimes there are issues and problems that people don't even realize are issues and problems.
All right.
And so when you see them, you're like, oh, we can fix this, you know? It's like, I mean, and we live in a world where all that is, like, the whole fact that we're streaming right now on Instagram is because somebody said, you know, what if you had an app that you could take pictures and you could put pictures, you know? And so it's what I'm doing is not any different than anybody else is. I think for me, maybe I'm just doing it a little bit different when it comes to ministry. I think it's different when I'm trying to reach people and do things. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm like one of a kind. Definitely not that. But I think when it comes to doing, when it came to doing student ministry, when it came to doing ministry and preaching the gospel, I really didn't feel like. It sounds really bad. It's probably might get some hate mail on this. I really didn't feel like, and I still feel this way, and a lot of times, is that I don't feel like the church is the innovators of the world. The world is more innovative than the church is, and it frustrates me because I really believe that the church should be more innovative than the world is. I mean, we're tapped into the Creator. We have, you know, when you get born again, when He puts His Spirit in us, so we should be able to do things and should be doing things that the world should be looking at us and going, wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's really innovative. But what we do is the church tends to follow the world or follow what everything else, the other culture.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like that's personally, soapbox that's what frustrates me a lot of times, is that the church is not nearly as innovative as it should be. But I don't know. I don't even know if I answered your question.
Well, I think really what I just wanted to focus on for everybody, and by the way, we lost our
YouTube feed?
Yeah, our YouTube feed. But really what I wanted to focus on is, you know, just going through all these boxes and finding all these things.
I'm looking.
When I found those CDs that said The Underground Show, and my son is on, and he'll be like, man, I remember The Underground Show, because all my kids were here when we were videoing and doing that type of thing.
Or recording.
Recording and putting these music compilations together. And I remember you saying, and I'm gonna try to find it to play it later today sometime or something, because it is so cool, because you can only listen to it by CD, but it's like The Underground Show. It was so cool. And, you know, I'm thinking to myself, man, this man is an innovator. He just thinks ahead of the game. And this was before podcasts came out. This was before, you know, everybody's doing their music compilations and what does G call them? Not singles, but
EPs.
EPs, you know.
I think it's funny you're talking about the kids.
Yeah.
I would say probably 4 years ago, or 4 years before. So before everybody was YouTubing, before everybody was being YouTube vloggers, video vloggers, before anybody was doing any of that stuff, I was doing it on my YouTube channel right after YouTube channel came out. As soon as YouTube came out, I started doing these video vlogs. I was doing them all the time. And my kids,
Yes.
because I listen to young people, because young people, a lot of times they can see things that I don't see. So my kids told me, Dad, you're crazy. What are you doing? This don't make any sense. You're just making these videos and blah, blah, blah. So they're just kind of not dragging me, but they're kind of dragging me.
Oh, they were dragging you.
And so really, I kind of listened to them. So I was like, okay, well, I probably don't need to do this. And then fast forward 3 or 4 or 5 years later, they're showing me, they're like, man, I was doing this 5 years ago.
And you thought I wasn't
and they were like, no, you weren't. And I was like, so I
Yes.
showed them the video. I took one of my YouTube channel. I started showing the videos like, man, why did you listen to us?
Because it's really
you can be famous, Dad. I'm like, I don't know. We're doing this live, so we don't ever have these technical difficulties. This is what I'm talking about right here.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah,
See,
so-
this is why we pre-recorded it and put it on a CD and then dispensed it, because it was so much easier. And by the
Yeah.
way, Steph's husband is Martin. Hi, Martin.
Hi.
Morning.
So I would do these shows. So it's more for me. It's more of thinking about solving problems or looking to see what issues are arising or how you can make something better than what you currently have. And so when you look at what's taking place, it's just really it's just a perspective. Like you have to look from a different perspective, and in doing so, it causes you to be innovative, so you're trying to do things that nobody's done or solve problems in a way that nobody's solved that problem. And sometimes there are issues and problems that people don't even realize are issues and problems.
All right.
And so when you see them, you're like, oh, we can fix this, you know? It's like, I mean, and we live in a world where all that is, like the whole fact that we're streaming right now on Instagram is because somebody said, you know, what if you had an app that you could take pictures and you could put pictures, you know? And so it's what I'm doing is not any different than anybody else is. I think for me, I think maybe I'm just doing it a little bit different when it comes to ministry. I think it's different when I'm trying to reach people and do things. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm like one of a kind. Definitely not that. But I think when it comes to doing, when it came to doing student ministry, when it came to doing ministry and preaching the gospel, I really didn't feel like. It sounds really bad. It's probably might get some hate mail on this. I really didn't feel like, and I still feel this way on a lot of times, is that I don't feel like the church is the innovators of the world. The world is more innovative than the church is, and it frustrates me because I really believe that the church should be more innovative than the world is. I mean, we're tapped into the Creator. We have, you know, when you get born again, when He puts His Spirit in us, so we should be able to do things and should be doing things that the world should be looking at us and going, wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's really innovative. But what we do is the church tends to follow the world or follow what everything else, the other culture.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like that's personally, soapbox that's what frustrates me a lot of times, is that the church is not nearly as innovative as it should be. But I don't know. I don't even know if I answered your question.
Well, I think really what I just wanted to focus on for everybody, and by the way, we lost our
YouTube feed?
Yeah, our
we?
YouTube feed. But really what I wanted to focus on is, you know, just going through all these boxes and finding all these things.
I'm looking.
When I found those CDs that said The Underground Show, and my son is on, and he'll be like, man, I remember The Underground Show, because all my kids were here when we were videoing and doing that type of thing.
Or recording.
Recording and putting these music compilations together. And I remember you saying, and I'm gonna try to find it to play it later today sometime or something, because it is so cool, because you can only listen to it by CD, but it's like The Underground Show. It was so cool. And, you know, I'm thinking to myself, man, this man is an innovator. He just thinks ahead of the game. And this was before podcasts came out. This was before, you know, everybody's doing their music compilations and what does G call them? Not singles, but
EPs.
EPs, you know.
I think it's funny you're talking about the kids.
Yeah.
Several, I would say probably 4 years ago, or 4 years before. So before everybody was YouTubing, before everybody was being YouTube vloggers, video vloggers, before anybody was doing any of that stuff, I was doing it on my YouTube channel right after YouTube channel came out. As soon as YouTube came out, I started doing these video vlogs. I was doing them all the time. And my kids, because I listen to young people, because young people, a lot of times they can see things that I don't see. So my kids told me, Dad, you're crazy. What are you doing? This don't make any sense. You're just making these videos and blah, blah, blah. So they're just kind of not dragging me, but they're kind of dragging me.
Oh, they were dragging you.
And so really I kind of listened to them. So I was like, okay, well, I probably don't need to do this. And then fast forward 3 or 4 or 5 years later, they're showing me, they're like, man, I was doing this 5 years ago.
And you thought I wasn't
and they were like, no, you weren't. And I was like,
yes.
So I showed them the video. I took one of my YouTube channel. I started showing the videos like, man, why did you listen to us? You could be famous, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, you know. So, but it's really the thought process of being able to see what nobody else can see and seeing the potential of what's there. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge people have is they don't see the potential.
A diamond in the rough.
Yeah, they don't see it, you know. So I don't even know if we're live anymore on YouTube. So.
No, but we're on Instagram.
Okay,
it's
we're
fine.
on Instagram. So you're getting a free Instagram. I say free, like we charge. You don't have to tune into YouTube. You're getting a nugget from Instagram.
Yeah, from Instagram.
So
because we're probably gonna have to go back and re-record.
Yeah, or broadcast.
We'll broadcast from the car.
This will become one of the lost episodes.
Hey, like the Underground show. And my son should be laughing right now. I remember the Underground show. Anyway, so it just made me think about all the stuff that you've done and all the stuff that you were ahead of the game. You know, you were the Where's Waco sign. And I remember I used to ride your case because I would be like, what are you doing? Listen, if you do one more business.
And not all of them were businesses, though.
You're right.
Not all of them were businesses.
You're right, but everything costs money.
Yeah, it does cost money.
So
I get in trouble now for buying stuff.
No, now I buy you what you want.
Well, I don't get in trouble for buying stuff.
I buy you what you want.
I buy more stuff. Just
more of this. This is what we buy. Look.
Video production stuff, audio production stuff.
Audio production stuff, all the ringlet, you know.
But I say buy because some of the stuff, I can't even really say that because that's really taking glory from God at the risk of sounding super spiritual. But a lot of times I just believe God for what I'm trying to accomplish. Like I'm like, man, Lord, I really need this, or I could use this, or this would be good if I could get this, and boom, it'll show up. Like somebody go, hey, did you need this? I'm like, sweet, that'll work.
Yeah.
I went from using a little small tripod to having 3 tripods in like a couple of days, and I was just like, Lord, I need a tripod. I had 3 of them, you know. But it's, I don't know. I think. You know, somebody posted on social media the other day. They said, "We're what did they say? Where God guides, He provides," which is very churchy to me.
Okay, give
very
us the
churchy.
English version.
Where God guides, He provides, which is true, but I don't think this is where people get upset with me. I think it's true that God does provide where He leads you, where He guides you. But if you're not being led by God and you're going in a different direction, you can't say that He's providing for you. Sometimes
you're providing for yourself.
You're providing for yourself, and sometimes this is the part where people really, really get upset with me.
Hi, cousin, I miss you.
Where people really get upset with me is that sometimes we think that we're being led by God, and we're not. We're actually being disobedient, and the devil will come and provide the things that you need, so that he can keep you off track from what God actually wants you to do.
Oh my God!
And that's what I really feel like is really misleading to people, because we think just because that we're being provided for that it's God, and sometimes it's not God. The devil will give you anything that you need to keep you out of the will of God. So even though you're doing things and it looks like it's God, you have to really know that you're doing what God's called you to do. I remember when I had the idea for the message conference, and everybody was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Look, I know this is God." And man, I would just believe God for stuff, and then I was so frustrated because it didn't do what I saw, what God showed me. It wasn't happening, and I literally had to go to my quote unquote prayer closet and get with God. And He says, "Well, you're not doing what I asked you to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's not working."
Yeah.
And when I made that adjustment, everything just started, man, the provisions, everything just started working. And so I think it's really important, if you don't get anything out of this, it's really important that you get this, is that it's one thing to think that you know that you're doing what God asked you to do, and it's an entirely different thing to know that you're doing what God asked you to do. Because if you just think and you have a hunch, you need to really know that this is what you're supposed to be doing. Stay in your lane, get in your lane.
Stay in your lane, bro.
Run your race, as Paul says. But I think when God leads you in the direction and you're obedient to exactly what He's asking, then it's not going to be easy. That's where I think that people miss it. They think that, well, it's just going to be easy and God's going to provide. God provides by faith.
Yeah.
That's how He provides. And if you're not having to use a lot of faith to believe God where the direction you're going, then you're probably not being led by God. There's nothing in the scriptures, nothing ever came to any of the followers, any of the believers, none of the disciples had anything easy. It didn't just happen for them easy. They had to use their faith to believe God for it. And I think a lot of times,
bro, that's some faith when you got to use your patamobile for everything.
Yeah, so a lot of times we don't think that, and I think that's, for me, I think that's when I began to excel. When I got saved and started learning what it meant to be led by the Spirit of God, be obedient to the Word, trusting God, and that's when I began to see the innovation. That's when I began to see things, being ahead of the curve, really, really take off for me. Is because I was really dependent on God. And it's funny because now when I do things, I get those looks. You give me those looks. You're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm telling you, this is it. This is it. This is it."
I'm used to it.
And so I think part of that is trusting God and really just knowing who God is. I'm sorry, I got a little tangent.
That's okay. That just means that was near and dear to your heart. And that's really why I wanted to talk about this today, was him being an innovator and ahead of the curve, is because I found some of his messages and CDs and all the things that he's done throughout the years, and I'm just like, babe, you were so ahead of the game, and I just cannot sleep on that, because he was making CDs with as if they were podcasts, and this was even before podcasts.
We were doing podcasts before podcasts were popular.
Yeah,
we were doing this podcast before everybody else was doing podcasts.
Yeah.
And now everybody's doing podcasts.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Thanks for catching up.
I think it's, don't be like
I'm just messing
I think
around.
it was I think it was awesome. Did you turn your alarms off? You said, if you turn your alarms off, that's probably what it is.
No, my whole device just died.
Oh, that's what it was.
It just died.
Okay. Anyway.
Sorry.
No, it's okay, because now all the Instagrammers are getting a word from us and a word from our sponsors. Just kidding. But this was a great nugget to talk about this morning, was just, how to stay ahead of the game. And we always say that about you, that you're an outside the box thinker. You don't think inside the box. You look at the broad perspective. And again, going back to my defensive driving school, I always teach them, drive 2 cars back, because you can see all of this more than you can see just the car in front of you. And when your your vantage point becomes large like that,
peripheral vision.
Yeah, your peripheral vision is going.
I did a whole message on peripheral vision.
I know you did.
That was a good message.
I know you did.
Go ahead.
I know you did. But I'm just saying that, even at your vantage point that you had was just amazing and outstanding and demanding. No, I'm just kidding. I just thought I'd throw that out there because you're a DJ and you know all those words. But just saying that I just think you were so ahead of the curve and ahead of the game with all the stuff. I'm going to do something I normally don't do. No, they just need to see that how ahead you were, you know, and they see this all the time, but I just wanted to show them. So this is the wall of all of the conferences that he had before, because he was ahead of the game, guys.
You're really going live.
I really am. See, look. And I was looking at this picture, guys. Look at that picture down there in the right, in the corner. Right there at the bottom. Right? Isn't that crazy? April's going, I remember those. Okay, let's see. There we go.
Okay. And we're back.
And we're back.
So, I think just kind of shared this little last nugget.
Okay.
Because you were talking,
Okay.
it made me think.
Okay.
So, I think part of being able to have a good peripheral vision, have a good vantage point, change your level of thinking as far as seeing what everybody else is seeing, see a little bit higher and looking from a different perspective, is being able to listen to the people around you.
That's good.
Whether you trust them or not, listen to their perspectives.
Stop thinking you know it all.
Listen. Well, not even necessarily know it all.
There are people that think they know it all.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying when you're talking about, well, I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
Being able to listen to the people that are in your life, people that are people that you don't know, strangers. A lot of times we cut people off, but when you're able to listen to the individuals in your life and listen to their perspective, it broadens your ability to see bigger.
Okay.
Saying that to say this, my son, I'm giving him credit right now because I'm going to take full credit for it later.
You get credit once.
You get credit once, a couple times. So I was having a conversation with my son about 7 months ago, and we were talking. This is before COVID-19 pandemic, all this.
Okay.
And so we were having a conversation with my son, and we were talking about social media. We were talking about the different platforms, and he shared something that I thought was very innovative, and something that we're actually in the process of doing. So if you're watching us and you're keeping up with us, you're going to begin to see this. And I almost never say stuff like this.
Divulge information?
I don't. I just let it roll out.
This.
I just let it roll out.
Here it goes.
When you look at all of the platforms that we have, you have TikTok, you have Snapchat, you have Facebook, you have YouTube,
Twitter.
You have Twitter, you have all these different platforms. If you look at all of those platforms, and for us, it's Riverside Community Church. When you look at the platforms, what you're looking at is TV channels. So if you think of Facebook as a network, which it is, it's a social network,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So your page or your page for your personal post, that's your channel. The same way that you would turn to HGTV. So that would be your channel. And so what we're moving into, a phase that we're moving into in society and media, is that every person or every business or every organization or every ministry, every church is going to be recognized by their channel. So for us, what we've been doing, this is why we started using what we call our RTV.
Oh, yeah.
Now here's the thing, RTV, if you see that on a lot of our stuff, RTV on the bottom corner is our icon, but RTV was not even my thought. It wasn't something that I came up with. It was actually a team of folks, and actually an individual. I'll give him credit. He attends. He used to attend the Church of St. Mattress, but our cousin, I guess he would be our cousin, Wes. We were in a meeting. He just literally was like RTV, and so we were in a meeting, and this whole thing came about of RTV. So I'm sharing this because I need you guys to understand, if those that are watching, is that it's the people in your life that help you bring innovation. It's the people in your life that help you be able to see further along. So we weren't thinking about RTV
at the time.
in that sense.
Yeah.
This has been over a year ago. And then having the conversation with my son, I was like, wow, we need to take our Facebook and our YouTube, and those need to become our, that sounds funny, our TV, right? Those need to be our television programming. Those need to be our television. That needs to be us. This is how going video and everything that everybody's doing. So then you fast forward. So we're already thinking in those terms, trying to start putting stuff together. Had a meeting with our team, and we're having this conversation 7-8 months ago, and then we get hit with a pandemic, and we're literally forced
to do
RTV, what we've been working on. So everything just got pushed up for us, because we weren't going to try to do this till the end of 2020, 2021, and now we're literally moving it faster. And so, I'm sharing that as an example. Is it a lot of time innovation and able to see it and be ahead of the curve?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just me. It's the people that are in my life that are sharing ideas and thoughts that I may not even thought of. But it's grabbing all those different ideas, all those different concepts, all those different thoughts, putting them together and producing a cup, producing an iPhone, producing whatever it is that we're doing. And a lot of times, going back to what you said, a lot of times people want to assume that they know everything and that nobody else has the good idea, or nobody else has. So what our congregation, a lot of what you guys are seeing now wasn't even me. It was the people around me that helped put it together. That's innovation. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. So, hi, I miss MagTab. But
that was a long
way around. But welcome, if you're just joining in to our live podcast. We were on YouTube, but we lost our connection or something happened.
We don't know.
So now you're getting live nuggets straight from Instagram. And basically what we're talking about is, why is my husband always ahead of the game? Why is he always ahead of the curve? And it was just really cool because one of the things that we were talking about was that he... I found some CDs that he had done podcasts and had put them on a CD with a compilation of songs and all of these things. And he was just way ahead of the game. And I just asked him today to talk to us about what makes him think like that, what makes him think ahead of the game. And he was just talking about your vantage point. And I just told him, you're an out of the box thinker. I know no one like you. And so basically he's just saying here at the last minute that you have to let those around you speak into your life and not be tone deaf to them and all of the things that they tell you, because that's how you broaden your perspective, is listening to those around you, not just your friends, not just your family, but a compilation of all those. And anybody. I will say this, people that are watching now, all those people have poured into me and have broadened my perspective. I give, my boss, she's listening, and my cousin, they have really grown me outside of my box. I remember, and she's going to laugh because, when I did this job, I was thinking to myself, I'm too old. I don't need to be a host, and I don't need to be a server, and, and I didn't need to do salsa, to all these people. And, I had my cousin on this ear going, you got this, you got this, you got this. And then I got MagTab over here. You got this, Mama Mia, you got this, da 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 da. And I remember, and Alyssa's just going to laugh, but I remember when she was training me, to do hosting, you had to take all their information at intake, on the outside, and this is Disney, so you gotta be like up here, and the qualifications are up there. And I remember saying, she's like, you got this? And I'm like, no. And then as she was entering, I was like, no, I'll just watch you do it. And she takes me, she moves me in her spot and moves out the way, and she's like, hi, how are you doing? And I was like, But if it hadn't been for her pushing me to that point, if it hadn't been for my cousin pushing me to that point, I would have never grown outside my, little 4 parameters that I had myself in. I didn't like people. I always stand by that I was a introvert by nature. And, you used to invite people over to our house, and, I could that to you, but that was the way to break me out of that, was to say, yeah, come over to my house, come and hang out with us. And I'd be like, oh, the house is dirty. Don't you know we have 22 kids living in this house and they have a mess and you want all these people to come over? And then I would clean up and I'd be so mad and I'd clean up and then they would come over and I'd be like, hi, how are you? I'm so glad you're, oh. And then they would leave and I'd be like, and you'd say, see, didn't you have fun? And I'd be like, yeah. And he'd say, okay, great, because they're coming next week. And I'd be like, but that grew me outside of that box. And that's really what I wanted everybody to hear today, is why you're an outside of the box thinker. Why are you always ahead of the game, always 2 steps ahead, and just looking at some of the things that I found in this cleaning and this purging or nesting
That's
stage.
another podcast, by the way.
Yeah, that it was. But in all of this cleaning and organizing and making do with the quarantine time that we have, I found all of his messages, and not all of them, but quite a few of them, and all of his books and all of his teachings, as me and my kids would call it, the holy grail of the celloism, and it's funny because I found some of your dad's stuff in there too, and I'm like, why would you keep this? But your dad was an innovator too, just like you, and he made a large headway for a lot of people in the minority community here in Waco. And, you did say that some of that was instilled in you, and that's why everybody wants you to run for office all the time. Yeah, all the time. They're all like, Cello, you should do this. Cello, you should do that. And
no, thank you.
Well, it is because you're an outside of the box thinker and you are ahead of the game. I mean, who does that? Who creates a podcast on CD in 1980?
Wow, that far back.
Mind blown. Mind blown. Because you didn't get saved till 98, 97, 96, 97, 98, I don't know, somewhere in there. We lost track of time. We slept since then. But just saying that to say that, you created a CD that was a podcast on a CD and called it The Underground Show. Guys, I know if you're just tuning in, you have to listen to this CD, because in part of it's like, you're listening to The Underground Show, and you had artists record that snippet. Do you remember that? Of them coming in and saying, you're listening to The Underground Show. And they would say their name or who they were. Little Rascal, Stephanie, I don't remember, you did New Wine, the Big Boss Man. Anybody remember the Big Boss Man? So I'm just saying, that's cool. But I'm just saying that, thank you, Alyssa, by the way. I'm just saying that I'm only that way because he's that way. And you said it a minute ago, because the creator lives inside of us, And I tell people that all the time. Oh, when they say I'm not creative. I've seen y'all's Instagrams. Y'all are very creative. Y'all do some things that, that you wouldn't think you could do. But people do that because of them thinking ahead of the game. And I think if you think ahead of the game the way he did in 1980 or 1990, if you're ahead of the game, then you're 2 steps ahead of everybody else. And I'm not saying that we need to be that way. I'm just saying that you need to be ahead of the game to broaden your horizons, to be able to say, back then it wasn't the thing, but now it's the thing. See, God, and I talked about this in one of the podcast episodes about my shop. He gave me that idea years before I was supposed to even launch it. But, we always think that, it's for right now. And sometimes it isn't for right now. And that's a podcast itself, too. Yeah, that's
for later.
Yeah, look at you. You were making podcasts on a CD and it was for now. It wasn't even for 1990.
And that's the hard part for me. And I don't know about other folks, but for me, the hard part is when you see something and you start engaging it and doing it. The hard part is this sounds bad, and it sounds boastful, it sounds big-headed, it sounds arrogant.
Yeah, you're a big head. It's fine. I mean, it's good.
It's hard because trying to wait for people to catch up to where you're thinking is exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're still going, I don't get it. It's literally, you're going to laugh. It's literally when they thought, we have corded telephones in the house. What if we made a mobile phone? And everybody's like, who needs a mobile phone?
Yeah.
You just call when you get home. Now, 40 years later, people don't even have phones in their homes.
No, this is what they're like. Yeah.
So that's the transition. Can I hold out and be continuous in doing what I feel like
is the head of the game?
Well, not just what I feel like God's leading me to do, in maintaining that, So when we first started doing the podcast, they were horrible. You want to hear a bad podcast? 1. Go listen to episodes 1 through 10, 1 through 15. They sucked bad, and we still have them up. Like, I won't take them down; they're still there. But we were learning to do podcasts because podcasts weren't. You just couldn't go.
Well,
find
they weren't
a pod.
super popular.
They weren't popular.
Then.
Yeah, it was.
We were country when country wasn't cool.
and so, but now you see what we're doing now, and then the reason we're even doing video now is because of our goddaughter. My goddaughter's like, Nino, you have
shout out to Sella the Mua.
She was like, Nino, you have to get on video. You have to get on YouTube. Nino, you have. And I'm like, no.
They're going to have to do our hair.
And she was like, man, she was just really just telling me for like about 7 or 8 months, you've got to get on YouTube. You've got to get on. And so I'm like, I don't really want to. It's not really what I'm looking at. I'm not thinking that, And then she starts doing a YouTube channel, and I'm blown away what she does.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's right.
Yeah.
We need to be on video.
Yeah.
And so then I started working on trying to get that done. It took several months to be able to get to where I felt comfortable doing it. And so we've been doing videos since then. And all that, going back to what I was talking about with the RTV. And so that's what I was saying, is that innovation and seeing ahead of the curve and being ahead really depends on seeing what other people see, even though you may not necessarily see it. And that's, to me, that is the balance. That's the trickiness, is to be able to who you really listening to, and who has what I would consider
a voice
or a pulse on what they see coming, how they see things. Anyway, so just saying that to say that it really is about not just me being innovative and seeing past, but seeing what everybody else sees to help you see further down, the road. And so that's the challenge, is being able to maintain it while everybody's catching up, or they're all looking at you like, what are you doing?
Well,
like, this doesn't even, why are you wasting your time on that? I'm like, it's going to be great, right?
And honestly, saying this about Disney, Disney was the same. He had this idea, and people were like, you're out of your mind. And he even went bankrupt 7 times before he made it big, and so we're not going to go bankrupt 7 times, but
we haven't gone bankrupt once.
Thank God. Here.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, praise the Lord. But saying that to say, to be innovative, you do have to see 2 cars ahead. And that's how I call it, because, again, with my driving school, my defensive driving, I'm always looking at 2 cars ahead. And I'm always looking at the sides to see what's coming at me. I wish that I could take that in my normal life and say, did I know this pandemic was coming? No. Did I know I was going to have to clean my 7 rooms in my house? Eventually, yes. And I think it's funny because my friends are all like, well, what are you doing? I'm part hoarder and I'm unhoarding, but I think for everybody, the first step is knowing that you're looking ahead, or you're looking and not just being stagnant. That's the word, right?
Yeah.
And so just...
You gotta be willing to grow.
Yeah, willing to grow. And what do you get back in the frame?
I'm sorry.
Scooch this way. This brother, he just... You're like a typewriter. You sleep like that too. Anyway, so we just wanted to do this podcast today. This, again, is our weekly podcast every Wednesday, and we talk about things that will help you in life. And this today for us really was just finding out why my husband, why he thinks the way he does, and why is he an innovator? Why is he always 2 steps ahead of the game? And, just saying, in case you just signed on, I love saying this, that I found all of his books, or messages, or some CDs. I forgot to tell you, I found some cassettes too. But some of those cassettes were me when I started out preaching. And one of them says on there, Carla. And if you know anything about me and you know Carla, you're like... But it was really good. The teaching was really good. God was working in me and doing a work in me. And let me tell you, he hadn't stopped yet. And I was just like, hey, those some good messages, girl. You better get on that. But anyway, maybe I'll post some of those up, or we'll do audio or something, because they're really, really good. Guys, I went and found me a cassette player just so I could listen to some of those teachings. I even found a song he had written.
Ooh, you're wrong for that. Ooh. We gotta go. We'll holler at you guys later. Thank you so much for tuning in with us this morning. Yeah. We're gonna end on that sucker right there.
We went really long today, but thanks for joining in, and just know that we do this every Wednesday, and we're going to be doing live. And normally we used to do it at 5:30 or 5 o'clock, which is crazy, because now nobody knows what time it is, what day it is, and all of that, especially if you're not working. Yeah. But anyway, stay tuned, and
I don't know if it'll be up on YouTube or not.
If not, it might be a new one.
Yeah, so this may be the lost episode 127.
Hey, I like it.
Because I don't know what happened to our connection. So.
All right, and go back and look at those first podcasts that we did, because
they're kind of because I don't know how long it'll be up.
Oh, it's 24 hours, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's not like Snapchat.
Yeah, so you better share this and let people watch, I guess.
Yeah. Remember,
this 4-hour podcast.
And remember our first podcast. Is this thing even on?
Thank you for listening to the Riverside Weekly. Download the Riverside Waco app to stay connected and follow us on all social media sites at the Riverside Waco. This podcast is made possible by the givers of Riverside Community Church. Production and engineering provided by Capital G and RTV in Waco, Texas.